Hello, I'm Michael of M.O.D Services. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you've not subscribed, please do so and like this video. We brought you a beautiful engagement cake for our lovely students, and today we have this beautiful luxurious wedding cake for her. Join me as I take you through the whole process of how we came up with this beautiful cake, through to the venue, to the wedding celebration. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere, and don't forget to share with your friends to also learn. Thank you. Hello, as I promised you, I'll be bringing you a live feed on the wedding cake. So we started carving a 10 inches cake. Most people are wondering, does M.O.D really cover cakes with buttercream? Yes, I do sometimes. And here we have our buttercream. I'm going to crumble the cake with buttercream. When I'm done, I'm just going to do my full carving in fondant. I don't always work with ganache. I love working with ganache, but sometimes I make exceptions. I try to go in for buttercream so people wouldn't think of using just ganache as a means of carving fondant cake. No, I wouldn't want that to happen. So we are carving our cake. We are putting our whole cake with our buttercream. Then when you are done, you're going to cover in fondant. So buttercream is also good for carving your fondant cakes. All you need to do is get your cake trimmed in the neatest or perfect way. Then you can just finish up by coating in your buttercream. So just going to cover the whole cake in our buttercream, smoothing that out to make our sharp edges. And of course, we can cover in fondant. As simple as that. Please stay tuned, don't go anywhere as we unfold the beautiful wedding cake we are making for my lovely students. I'm Michael of M.O.D Services. So we had to cover the whole cake in buttercream. We speed up the whole process. So we make sure we cover the whole part of the cake. We did that smoothing. Then mostly what I do is I normally push in my dowels, that's my skewers, to make sure my layers are stuck together. I wouldn't want my layers traveling whenever I'm traveling as well. I wouldn't want my layers traveling alongside me trying to travel my cake. That's your layers shifting from each other. No. So every cake I do, I push in my skewers after coating and make sure I just level that up. So here we are going to work on our top edges as well. So it's 5 yummy rich fruit cake, yes. So my student baked a recipe I taught her. It's 5 yummy fruit cake. We sandwiched, we added some yummy fruit filling, and we coated in buttercream. So here we are pushing in our skewers after cutting them out to make sure our layers are stuck together. So I refrigerated it for some minutes. So I'm just going to spray the whole cake with water. You don't need to refrigerate it. You can just let it sit and rest, and it will firm up for you. So I'm just going to cover our cake in our first layer. So I did a double covering. The first layer was white, and the second layer was a marbled design. So after paneling, we've already gone through the process of carving cake. After paneling, making sure I cut off the excess, rolling the top, I had to just cram coat again to do my final covering, which was in a marbled burgundy and white color. So that's what we did. So after just rolling our fondant around our cake, I just pressed to do our sharp edges, as in cut off the excess at the base. That's what we normally do. So if you've watched our previous video, you know what I'm talking about now. So you're just going to work at the very back and make sure our cut fondant is neat and clean. Then we roll for the top and we work on our top edges as well. Then when you are done, we set this aside and let it firm up. Then we can do our second covering. That's our second coating. So you're just going to smoothen out the back and smoothen out the whole cake. Trim off the excess at the very base. Then when we are done, we just roll the top and cover our top with it. So you're just going to smoothen out the whole cake before adding our top to it. So our top panel was a bit big, so I had to trim off the excess. So I trimmed off, added a bit of water, then I just flipped on it, worked around it, and did our sharp edges. That's for our very first covering. Then I'll show you a little bit of ways to achieve your sharp edges. That's ways in achieving your own sharp edges. We have different ways, and I'll teach you one in this video as well. We are just going to add corn flour, then we flip it onto our cake board and do our sharp edges. So here we have our cake after making a very first coat. So we've done our first coat, which is our first covering. So I'm just going to flip this. So this is an easiest way to make sharp edges. That's flipping your cake onto a different cake board and dragging your fondant to meet on the board. That's an easiest way to make it. Or you can also choose to do it this way. So once you're done carving, then you can start with the help of your two fondant smoother. You drag from the top, then it meets the very smoother you are holding on the side of fondant, and it will help cut it out. This is also an easiest way to do it. It's so easy and simple. So you pull till it meets at the very edge, then it cuts it out like this. So you pull, then you help cut it out with both smoothers. So we are done. We allow this to rest a bit. Then we did our second coating with our buttercream before carving in our marbled design. We are going to crumb coat the whole cake in our buttercream, a lighter coating, not too deep. Let's coat the whole cake with the buttercream. Then when we're done, we started to roll our fondant to cover the whole design. That our second coating. So after applying your buttercream, you can spray a bit of water so that your fondant can stick to it. Sometimes the buttercream tends to dry out, especially if you're working in a cold environment. That's in an air-conditioned room. It dries out sometimes. So you spray a little bit of water, then you cover with your rolled out marble design. So I'll do the marbling design for you to also see how I do my marbling sometimes. You can either use your color as a marble or you color a fondant differently, and you just incorporate that into your fondant. Yes, so we have our fondant. I'm going to just add in a little bit of the fondant gradually to create my marbled design. So we take a portion, we gently apply it in there, then we take another portion, we push it in there, then we knead gently, we take another portion, we put it in there, then we knead. So we've added all our colored fondant to our white fondant to create our marbled effect. So you can try this out, or you can use the color directly for your marbled effect. After you're going to create a sausage. After creating the sausage, we're going to roll out our sausage and make sure we get the very size of our cake. So that's what we're going to do today. We open up the sausage a bit, then we try to expand. After opening that up, then we expand and open it to make sure we get it very full. So that's what we are doing now, because we want it to get to the height of our cake. So we are going to roll and open that up so we get to the height of our cake. Normally you have to take your tape measure and measure that out, but I've been doing this for long, so I know the measurements I need for my cake. You're just going to roll, but when you're rolling your marble design, you have to be flipping and you have to be checking the part which looks more beautiful. Then you use that part, and after rolling, I realized this part was very neat and beautiful, so I said to use this very part for our front. So here I gently rolled around our pre-covered cake and use the scissors to cut off the excess. Afterwards, we did our normal join and cut covering. That we opened up the other side, then we flipped both edges together like this. Then with the help of our smoother, we just cut off the excess. So that's what we did with this particular one, and you have to make sure it was very smooth and neat. So with the help of our shovel, we had to cut off the excess at the back too and smoothen it out. Then we worked on the sides too, that's the board. Then we rolled for the top and did our sharp edges again. Neat cakes must be very neat. If you want a neat cake, everything must be very neat from start to finish. If you start your cake anyhow, you're going to end up with a bad result. So you have to make sure whatever you're doing is professional and neat. So we had to make sure everything we were doing was very neat, beautiful, and on point. We wanted something exceptional for our lovely student because she's a good student. She baked her cake, and trust me, I was impressed. The cake was nice, very moist, and I would say I'm a proud teacher. So we rolled the top as well. We covered that up. Then we had to flip and do our sharp edges as well, because making sharp edges is very, very important. It makes your cake stand out. You're just going to flip this, work on the edges. Then when you are done, so I covered the base with a cake board. Yes, I had to cover the cake. It's a 10 inches cake, so I had to add in a 10 inches cake board just to make sure we don't end up having the crumbs coming into our final covering. So after, what I normally do is I press the sides to meet the top a bit, cut off, and gently sit down, relax, and do the final pressing to make sure I get it very smooth. So that's how I normally do my cutting. After cutting off the very excess, I sit down, relax, and make sure I'm pulling to meet with the very top to get my perfect sharp edges. Once I'm done, I reach out for my shovel and I start cutting off the excess I got from this particular sharp edges. So you're just going to trim off the excess fondant we got from the very sharp edges we created. You have to make sure it's very clean and neat. So we take off the excess gently, we smoothen out for the last time, then we trim again. Then when you're done, we can finally flip our cake, and then our lovely marbled cake is ready. So you're just going to layer or arrange our tiered cakes together. Now we are going to assemble the cakes, arrange our lovely sugar flowers, our topper, then we head straight to the event. So you're just cutting off the excess after doing our final sharp edges, then we just flip the cake. So here we have our perfect and neat sharp edges. Give it a try. Carving of cake with buttercream, it's also easy. Yes, I make cake carving look simple, but cake carving is also simple. It starts with you, so make that happen and make it look more beautiful. So I'm now going to arrange our mold design at our very base cake, which is our 12 inches cake design. It's a 12 by 4 inches, and I'm just going to cover the base with our lovely rose mold design. So when you are done covering, you're just going to add a bit of royal icing. Then we stack our 10 inches cake onto it. So here we have our last and final mold. Once you are done, you're just going to add royal icing. We add a royal icing, then we can add in our 10 inch. So here we applied a bit of royal icing. 10 inches has a board underneath it, so we make sure it sits and relax on our royal icing and make sure it's secured to our base cake. So we're just going to gently lift that up and place it on top and make sure we readjust it to fit perfectly or to fit well onto our base cake. When we are done, we just smoothing that out. We are going to smoothen out our very base design. Then we go ahead to our third tier. So we push in dowels. As I said, we push in dowels to make sure our cakes are resting or sitting perfectly. So here we added our 8 inches cake. So you're just going to continue the process by adding our separator. So here we have our beautiful separator. We are going to add in our very last cake. So we added a bit of the royal lighted, and we position our very last cake onto it. So we have here, so beautiful, so lovely. So here we have our 5-tier wedding cake. Separators are included as a tier. So we have our 5-tier, but in actual fact, it's a 4-tier wedding cake with separator. So we're just going to beautifully add our mold design to each tier to make it stand out, to make it look more beautiful. Once you are done adding our mold, we're just going to beautifully arrange our floral design. That's our edible sugar flowers. So we're going to arrange our edible sugar flowers around them. Once you are done adding in our mold wax and everything. I love using this particular rose mode because it makes my work look beautiful. It's so beautiful and unique. So we are done applying our molds to our design. We are now going to steam our flowers. If you watched our very previous video, I showed you how to make your own sugar flowers. An easy approach to making sugar flowers. Now we are going to add our very mold to our very 10-inch cake. So we are going to add in the mold. Then we finish that up. Then we can start adding our edible flowers to it. So with the mold design, each mold comes with its own design. So you have to check and adjust the mold according to the design. If not, you end up having some parts facing up, the others facing down. And I don't think you'd want that. So you have to make sure you are checking the design and making sure whatever you are doing is in pattern. You don't have to miss out the pattern. And when you get to the last, you can cut the remaining piece with your shovel. That when you align it, then you can cut off with your shovel. So I'm just going to work on our smallest cake design, the very last mold. This mold is very beautiful and it's easy to work with. So we are just going to add our very last mold to our very last cake design. I decided to leave the separator alone. I didn't want to add in any extra details to our separator. No, I wanted the separator to stand out with the flowers and everything going around it. So when we are done, we started pushing our sugar flowers in white and burgundy. So I started to marble the cake with a burgundy color, then arrange our very white and burgundy sugar flowers all around the cake to make it look beautiful and to make it stand out. And Marlo loved it. She was like, M.O.D, the cake is so beautiful, it's on point. Yes. You have to make sure whatever you are doing is so exceptional. You have to make sure it speaks for itself. So the cake, I had to make sure the cake was a top notch for a wedding because the engagement cake was also beautiful, and we are not leaving the wedding cake out. The wedding cake had to also stand out. We are pushing in the sugar flowers. We are doing a beautiful floral decoration around our cake. So we're going to position them. Then when we are done, we fill in with our filler flowers. We add in our filler flowers to make sure it complements the design we are doing. So we gently push in our edible flowers. Then we had to arrange some on the side, some on the top. We tried to just surprise her with something lovely. And when we are done, we just had to stand up. Then we started arranging some at the very top. So we pushed in, and with the help of our plier, we just pushed in completely. So we just open up a bit. That's after pushing in, we open the flowers up a bit. Then it fills in any gap left. So after pushing in, we open up. Then we make sure it fills in the very top design to make it look so beautiful. So I'm just going to open that up a bit. Then we add the very last one to the very top. Then when we are done, we pushed in our topper, our Mr. and Mrs. topper, to complement the whole design we were drawing. So we had to push in gently the flower was blocking it, so you have to just adjust it and make sure you push it in gently. So when we are done, we are now going to add in extra flowers to the very side. So when I checked, there was a flower short somewhere, so I tried to add in a lot of flowers to the very side, climbing to the very top. That's to our separator. So that's what we did with some of the flowers left, and we had to make the flour in abundance. We had to cut excess sugar flakes because we wouldn't know when we would need it. So we pushed in the flowers, and now we got this lovely wedding cake for our lovely students on her big day. Yes, the cake was so beautiful. Wedding cake has to stand out, and we didn't leave this out at all. We made sure it was so beautiful to behold. So here we are pushing in our filler flowers. That's every space we find ourselves, we push our filler flowers in there. So that's the reason we call it filler flowers. It fills in the gap left after arranging your sugar flowers. So you're going to push in our leaves as well to complement the whole design. Each flower needs a leaves to complement, either gold, you can add in your white leaves, or any other design. So we chose this lovely green leaf. So if you've watched our previous video we posted, there's a video on how we did our edible leaf and our edible petals for our beautiful sugar flowers. Do watch it, give it a like, and you can also share that as well. So you are pushing in more leaves to complement our final design. We wanted the cake to look beautiful and stand out, so we had to make something beautiful, unique, and exceptional. So we are adding in our leaves to just complement our whole cake design. So we added some to the very top tier as well. And now our beautiful wedding cake is ready. I hope you learned a thing or two from this lovely wedding cake we did for our students. And also share this with your friends to also learn something from the chef himself. And don't forget to like this video if you are still watching. So we said to add more leaves to the sides of our cake to make it stand out. So this is a lovely cake. Afterwards, we have to steam the whole cake. Steaming makes your color stand out. So we brushed off the excess corn flour we used for our cake. Then when we were done, we started steaming the whole cake with our steamer to enable or help the colors pop out. Because the colors were not really visible because of the corn flour we used for our rolling and carving. So now we are steaming the whole cake, and we're going to have our colors popping after steaming. So this is what we are doing now, steaming the cake to help the colors pop out. When you are done, we just glitter our cake. You know, glittering cakes is a part of me, so I had to just glitter the whole cake to make it look more glossy, shiny, and beautiful. So we are just going to steam the whole cake till our colors can be well seen and free from any corn flour. So this is steaming our cake. When you are done, you're just going to glitter the cake as well. Then you will set off to deliver this lovely cake. So now you're going to glitter the whole cake with our pearl dust and our edible spirit. So as I said, if you take about a teaspoon of your pearl dust, you can add in about a whole cup of vodka or edible spirit. Because if you don't do that particular solution and you try to add in more pearl dust and less edible spirit or alcohol, it will clog in your machine or in your airbrush, and that's when you start facing problems with your airbrush not spraying or not coming out. You have to make sure the dust, with just a little amount, you can make your cake look so shiny and glossy. So just something little. So we got to the venue and we saw their lovely pictures. The decoration was so on point. I loved everything, and we did our beautiful setup for our lovely couple. Please do enjoy the rest of your video and don't forget to subscribe. I'm Michael of M.O.D's Catering Services.
How's this beautiful cake?
So this is officially your first meal to your wife. All the sweetness that there is in this cake. Of course,